Welcome to, I was going to say Canal Street, but never mind. This is Dashilan. I think this is where they get the Chinatown terms. Okay. But anywho, this is a historical alley. It's been in existence since the Ming Dynasty, so it's been around for about 500 years. Obviously, you see it's kind of been modernized, but they kept the architecture somehow, you know, from ancient times. It became a main commercial center during the Qing Dynasty. With the development of trade, fences were established to avoid stealing. You'll see the fences. but yeah, that happened. Throughout time, it has changed. Of course, I'm sure with the Cultural Revolution, a lot of stuff happened here. However, this place behind me is a pharmacy. It's been built since 1669.
Wow.
It's the only place that has survived all the turmoil, whatever that has happened. The name of the pharmacy is called, please help me with my pronunciation, Tong Ren Tang. Tong Ren Tang, okay? And it stores secret recipes of the Qing court, okay? And it's also known as, again, the oldest Chinese medicine shop in the country. So this is it. The oldest medicine spot in the country. It has gained so much reputation that it actually has more branches throughout China and even in other parts of the world, like in London. And yeah, so it's a very, 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 I guess, famous place.
Yeah,
let's see here. That's about it. I don't have much to say. Well, as far as shopping goes, I mean, there's a lot of other stores. I mean, this is very popular for shopping. This is very popular for shopping. So, if you want to find like real, authentic Chinese or even ancient Chinese stuff, right over here, this is the place to do that. And you know, from what I've read, it says, well, if you want to feel the ancient Chinese tradition of, I guess, shopping, you know, this is the place here. There's also a famous tea place where you can purchase tea, but some of us have already experienced that. When we went to do that tea tasting, well, the headquarters is actually somewhere around here. The, what's it called again? The Tenfu Tea House. Yeah, Tenfu Tea House is said to be around here. So with that said, anybody has any questions?
Any questions, sir?
What does these three characters literally mean?
The three characters?
The Tong Ren Tang, the name of this pharmacy.
Do you have any idea?
I guess they don't.
Well, I'm sure. Why don't you get in a frame?
It came into the, you know, it was built in the main. Well, it's been around for a long time.
So you can see, in ancient China, you read from left to right, right? Right to left. I'm confused with left to right. And nowadays you read from left to right, right? And you read from top to bottom, left to right. And here, so the first character is Tong, which means shared, the same. Second character Ren means humanity. Tang is Hall, so shared humanity Hall. Express the virtue of a doctor, right? So if you want to get some medicine, here's the place to go.
Anyone here in international business or in a business school? Anyone here doing international or international affairs or international studies? So if you're interested in doing business at all with Asia or China, it's like you would do well then to study, I think, than the way Chinese have done business, Chinese economic history. So wherever Chinese started emigrating then throughout Southeast Asia in, early, but I mean in large numbers by the early Ming Dynasty, so early 15th, 16th century. And the way of doing business then has been, you know, somewhat consistent, right? There's intense bartering culture that you all experienced, right? And the notion of setting up an alley here with the competing businesses. And Chinese often have a street with everyone sells the same product, different companies. So there would be an alleyway like this where there would be a ton of pharmacies around, everyone competing. right? And so the same sorts of practices then made their way to the United States and Chinatowns, right? Raleigh has this Chinatown. I think it's the biggest one in North Carolina. And this notion here of the marketplace, right, being a kind of public sphere, right, also is, I think, important to understand if you're doing business with Asia. Right? So I think this notion of how business has been transacted then the last several centuries or more is very, very good for anyone going into international business. Right? So if you have to write a thesis for international studies, right? Reading on Chinese economic history would be a very, very good thesis, and extremely helpful thesis to do. Right? So that's a plug for.
I totally agree with Sandra about Chinatown in the United States, probably modeled after Alice like this. So this is, you can see it upgraded or higher level Chinatown. It looks very similar, just cleaner with more stuff.
The original Chinatown.
So if you've been in New York, Mulberry Street, Mott Street, but Flushing, right, in Queens, right, it has the same kind of feel, I think, from this. So Chinese medicine for everyone in Taoism, right? So Chinese medicine, we should go in and take a whiff, right? All kinds of exotic, I think, flavors and smells. And so Chinese medicine based on physiology, right? Visions of the body. Again, keeping your qi moving in the proper way, right? So Zhang Laoshi told some people she had a pimple yesterday, and she thought because there's too much yang energy or yang qi in her body, so she was eating foods associated with yin qi, the opposite, right? To sort of balance the qi in her body out. Qi is the stuff that everything is made of, right? And the idea is to keep it flowing in a healthy way, right? Medicine aids in doing that, especially when you have an imbalance, right? And so it's an incredibly sophisticated science. It's bound up in Taoist ideas, but it's not just a Taoist domain, right? But so everyone in Taoism then has a feel for that. We saw very, very early, 6 dynasties, right? Texts having to do with sort of consuming elixirs, right? And medicines and drugs even.
They have a book about alchemy, is that correct? Yeah,
to keep qi going, not just to be healthy, but also then to cultivate yourself into a higher being, right? Like an immortal when you die, right? Or any kind of lower level god, right? So this very earthly kind of environment is also bound up with staying healthy, but also when you die, then your next life as a slightly different, a slightly higher person, right? A more godlike person, longer life, happier maybe, right? Better food,
And you have a corpse release. They won't find your body.
Yeah.
Just fly up into the heaven, be among with the gods.
Live on a cloud or something, right? All right, so for those of you in Taoism, these ideas make sense. If it doesn't make sense, take Taoism.
Right. Dr. Mazina, just curious, does the idea of eating hot and cold foods or whatever, is that stem from Taoism as well?
Yeah, same principles.
Well, because I remember when I visited my friend in Hong Kong, he was saying, oh, I need to eat this because it's a cool food and that's going to make my face less swollen or whatever.
Exactly. That's exactly what Zhang Laoshi was saying last night, right?
So they eat based on the assumed health benefits instead of...
Well, ordering, if you notice when we order, when Zhang Laoshi orders for us, right, she's trying to get a balance, right? A little bit of fish, right, which is the spicy stuff is yang, right? And the cool stuff like the vegetables, the green vegetables are yin, the tofu, right? The notion is to get a balance, right? So you're not eating too much spice, you're not eating too much vegetables, you're not eating too much pork, you're not eating too much fish, right? You're eating everything.
It's called diet therapy.
Right.
It's more important, more healthy than taking medication. Just use food to cultivate you, to get yourself free of all kinds of diseases.
Right.
Well, there are people, I think there are doctors, retired doctors, it used to be free, taking pulses. Maybe you can try it.
Yeah, so let's go into the pharmacy, the oldest pharmacy, and pay attention to the smell, right? The smell is really very, very, very Chinese, right? All right.